everyone gathered here today. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's an honor to welcome you to this special event featuring an esteemed speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Sonny Zulhuda from Ahmad Ibrahim Kulliyah of Law, and distinguished guests, Professor Dato Dr. Norbik Bashah bin Idris, Chief Digital Officer of IIUM. We also are privileged to have the presence of UMC member and the IIUM community. To commence the program, let us begin with the moment of reflection and unity by reciting the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, Al-Fatiha. As we gather today, it is my great privilege to represent the Information Technology Division and to extend a warm and cordial welcome to each and every one of you. We have an enlightening session lined up for you today, titled Personal Data Protection Act PDPA 2010 and How It Affects Me at Work. Without further ado, let us commence a program by extending a warm welcome to Chief Digital Officer, Professor Dato Dr. Norbik Bashah bin Idris, who will now share his opening remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. Innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. My part here is the easy part, which is just welcoming. So I welcome everybody lah. But on a more serious note, inshallah, we appreciate and thank everybody for taking your time to be here in the Senate Hall, as well as to be online, alhamdulillah, from the various branches of the university. I am today very delighted to welcome everybody as well, and to also be very happy and appreciative for the presence of my dear brother and colleague, whom I call Dr. Sonny always, to give us some enlightenment on this issue of PDPA, or the Personal Data Protection Act. I guess everybody is aware that this is a topic that is gaining more interest, especially when we move more into the digital age, when information now takes the form of digital, although not information is always have to be in digital format. So we thought that we really should sit down and get some ideas or enlightenment on this subject, because in the work that we do every day, I guess it touches a lot on the issue of PDPA. As lecturers, normally at the beginning of the semester, I guess everybody does, I don't know, but I will collect personal information about my students, including even their mobile numbers and so on, because then we will set up WhatsApp group or Telegram group. These are personal data. I guess they have to give under duress, so Wallahu Alam. This is something that we can ask Dr. Sonny later. But as simple as that. Other example, for example, you may be printing something to the printer, and then the azan is berkumandang, and you rush to the mosque and you forgot what you printed, and what has been printed are very personal information about stuff under your supervision and so on. Somebody goes to the printer and pick it up, so the problem can start from there. We have researchers in the university who do research work. I guess research topic as private as gender dysphoria, or even some of the interesting topics of research that you collect, personal data and so on. How do we manage these kind of things? Have we ever transgressed any aspects of the PDPA and so on? And employee records, information about staff in the university. You might be some officers or carrying some file of somebody and you forgot and you left it somewhere and somebody else picked it up and something happens from there. So these are, I guess, everyday things that can happen within the way we do our work in the university. And we may not realize that we have actually transgressed certain aspects of the PDPA, Wallahu alam. So I guess understanding the subtleness or the details of what PDPA is actually as an act and how does it impact our work in the university is the thing that we really want to learn today, inshallah. So on that note, without further ado, I really would like to invite our dear respected brother, Associate Professor Dr. Sonny, to share his thoughts and his knowledge on the topic. Silakan, Doctor. Thank you very much. Oh, I should pass back to the MC, sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Prof, for the insightful opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our distinguished guest, please allow me to introduce him. Associate Professor Dr. Sonny Zulhuda is a renowned expert in the field of information security law. He's earned his PhD in information security law in 2010 from International Islamic University, Malaysia. Dr. Sonny is a former Web Science Summer Doctor Fellow from the University of Oxford, UK, and has been honored twice as a Fellow of the US-based Internet Corporation and Assignment Names and Numbers. He is also a fellow researcher for the Cyber Steward Network, hosted at the Citizen Lab, University of Toronto, Canada, and a core member of Research Alliance for Data Governance and Cybersecurity based in Beijing, China. Currently serving as Associate Professor and Coordinator for the Cyber Law course at Civil Law Department, Ahmad Ibrahim Kulliyah of Law, IIUM, Dr. Sonny has been an advisor to the Office of Personal Data Protection Commissioner of Malaysia on various aspects of the personal data protection law. His expertise has earned him an appointment by Minister of Communication and Multimedia as a member of the Personal Data Protection Appeal Tribunal. Today, Dr. Sonny will enlighten us on the Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA 2010, and how it affects me at work. Ladies and gentlemen, let's extend a warm welcome to Dr. Sonny.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for the very kind introduction. Let me get my slides open first time. Is it shared now? Okay. Great. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. thank you for all the kind introduction. Thank you, Dato, Prof, Dato Norbik, Yang Mulia Tuan Raja Badrul, for giving or for gracing the session today. And thank you everyone for being here. Thank you ITD, IAUM for having me. I guess this has been, as has been introduced by Prof Norbik. This has been for a while, this issue of data protection. But before that, of course, I'd like to warmly greet everyone. I hope you all are doing well. It is not very easy to speak at especially this kind of hours. But is everyone already having their lunch? Just to check. Sudah makan? Because I saw packaged rice outside. I'm afraid someone delay their lunch just to join this program. Okay, just a quick check. Has everyone passed their celik digital assessment? Berapa persen, cikgu? Oh, almost 100. Oh, great. Ada yang belum So shall we do another celik digital assessment today? Before we start, rest assured this one is much simpler, much shorter. And the difference between that one with this one is that celik digital assessment that you did, the result was not known to person sitting beside you. But the one that we want to do today, we will make it open. Yeah. So please be with me. You will see some questions here. It's a yes or no question. Very easy. Yang celik digital you kena pilihkan. So this one is a yes or no question for everyone to join. But to make this more, happening, why don't we, every time you see a yes for this question, I will ask you one by one. So every time it is a yes, so you can raise your hand. Boleh? Cik Latif Kan. Boleh Boleh. Okay, one by one, 5 questions only. Okay, let's see. I'm happy to have and approve as my friends or followers as possible, as many friends as or followers as possible on my social media. Anyone yes? Tak apa, jangan malu-malu. Ada 1, 2, 3. Alright. Don't worry, be happy. Itulah friends, followers. Okay, Dato Norbik tak? Second question, okay. I keep same passwords or PIN for most of my accounts. Sejujurnya. we have few hands raised. Okay. By the way, you can keep the counting, how many yeses you have for these questions in total, okay? You can keep counting later on, we will see the score. All right, next question, boleh. I post my documents like driving license, marriage certificate, boarding pass, or restaurant bill online. Betul ya? Tu. Bill apa? Restoran ke? Driving license, especially after you receive the, I want the whole world to know. So I put my driving license. No, I'm legally driving. Dapat 1 yes. Okay, those who don't have yes, so you have scoring. So you keep the count for yourself. Number 4, I fill up forms asking my data for an exchange of free gift, door gift, concert pass, promotion materials, whatsoever lah. Ada tu naiklah sikit tangan, boleh. So few hands, more hands raised. Okay, good. So we have the last question. I pass other staff's mobile number to other person who asked for it without informing that staff. Very compliant lah. Very good. Oh, ada satu. Okay. So now you have your count. How many yeses you have? Just keep it for yourself. We will see the score. Okay, boleh. Keep yourself. How many yeses? Sudah. Tengok how many yeses you have. Who has 0 yes? Wow. See, We will see what kind of person you are, Cik Rajabat, and the rest. One yes. Okay, we have you. Great. 2 yeses. More people. 3 yeses. 3 yeses. Yes. 3 yeses we got. 4 yeses. 4 yeses. Apa tu? Sorry. Kacamata ni lain siapa? 5 yeses. Did I ask 4 yeses, right? For you. 5 yeses now? Anyone? No. Few. Okay, now you see your score. You will know what kind of person you are. Okay, 0 to 1 yes. Privacy conscious. Congratulations. Please write down the names of these people and then send to finance, dapat bonus lah sikit. Puan Nurmaliza, sorry I didn't greet you. You may want to do that. These people are really helping the university. 2 or 3 yeses. Assertive. Assertive ni tengah-tengah lah. But he or she will appreciate and will be willing to accommodate lah. Yeah. The first one, very conscious. Sometimes very suspicious also. In other words, very difficult lah. Very difficult person. And what about the 4 and 5 yeses? We got just very few people. Yeah, you are a risk taker. Not only you are a risk taker, but you can be the risk for other people as well. Tolong catat nama tadi bagi training lebih sikit. Give more trainings. All right. Okay, just joking. I hope this gives you some idea, yeah, how these things will, pop up in our daily activities, yeah, questions like this. And this PDPA is something to do with the whole mechanism of data processing, and all the 5 things that we mentioned. There is a data processing of personal data, especially. We are not talking about other than personal data. We are not talking about the trade secrets, the university confidential information. There will be another talk and another training for that. But this is especially for the personal data. So in each of these, there is a processing. Processing, it's very wide term. It can be something about collecting. It may be about sharing. Yeah, collecting, sharing, storing your data. Then you may want to use that data for some purpose. That one is all processing, which means whatever you do, basically, whatever we do with personal data, that will potentially be covered under this Personal Data Protection Act. So, as always in classes, we want to set up our learning objectives by which we can be assessed whether you have achieved what we want to achieve at the end of the program. So we will see the general trend of processing and data breaches. Then we will learn fundamental features of PDPA 2010, but of course it will be very summarized. Yeah, might not be covering everything, of course, including some latest cases, and then understanding why PDPA compliance matters. Yeah, both for your personal and professional affairs. So everyone who comes here, we have basically 2 hats to use, and sometimes you exchange it, or exchange it all the time for personal purpose or for professional purpose. When you use the computers, for example, in the office, sometimes it is for personal, sometimes it is for professional. We have a very lenient policy when it comes to using the company's computers so far, but it's okay as long as we understand, when we send emails, for example, or when we browse the internet, for example, is it for personal purpose or is it for professional or for workplace purpose? Then, because if you lose track or you lose control of these differences, then you might end up in troubles. Then understand the general compliance issues at the university context, and identify the next course of action. And I believe it is timely for us the university, the community as well, and the whole people inside the university to really kick off this PDPA program rollout. Program means basically to implement whatever is necessary. Let us proceed with understanding the landscape. And I think wherever you open your news stories, your page, your internet, you will see day in, day out this news about personal data being stolen. It becomes a very habitual situation where you see today, for example, one day the data belongs to a certain agency, the next day a data belongs to some universities, another day data belongs to certain companies, all are being hacked, being stolen. In the past, when we hear stories about hacking, for example, data breach or hacking, we will stop at asking whether or not some, computers are being intruded, whether the computers are being modified. But today, whenever you hear the word hacking, there must be something following up. Is any data being stolen, especially personal data? So there have been so many statistics and stories to confirm that it is one of the biggest risk today. There had been this latest statistics saying that cyber risk tops the whole risk. If I ask you what is your risk, what is the risk in your life? But of course this is different spectrum. The question was posed to the companies, especially to the CEOs. They will mention, the economic downturn. They will mention calamities, natural disasters. They will mention virus, pandemic. Yeah, but most answers actually about cyber risk. Yeah, this is true, and now becomes a nightmare for everyone. And JPDP, for example, has recorded so many reports, on data breaches, especially through online purchases. Did you buy anything online today? Every day, Today, how many purchases already today? Now the question must be like that, How many purchases you already bought today? Wow. Even for small things, small things. I used to undertake classes, and I have this quick quiz asking my students, what are the biggest thing you ever bought online? So they bought jewelries, they bought electrical appliances. Interesting, meaning they are being more willing. They are being more willing to go to internet and buy anything, even the biggest one. But if I switch the question, what is the smallest thing you buy on the internet? I think the answers will be more interesting, isn't it? You can even give example. Pen, pen, for example, pen, one pen, some more. But there is life. That's the reality now. Everyone goes online. But unfortunately, this is also the same place where you will find most data breaches. So we better be very, very careful. I mentioned the increasing threat to digital assets from three big threats. What are those three big threats? Number one is called Big Brothers. Have you heard about Big Brothers? Especially IT people know what Big Brothers are. Big Brothers is equal to this surveillance. People who do surveillance on you. They want to know where you are, where you go, and with whom are you going, and so on. So there are people out there who always are interested to know where we are going because they want to check. So who are these people? I mean, normally people will say Big Brothers are the government because they would know everything. Yeah, to be honest, they know everything, where you are, where you live, where your travel, because we travel using passport, right? Outside, I mean, and even on the normal roads, the government is also having the ability to know our movement. So this is, of course, one thing, but I must tell you later that PDPA doesn't apply to government. So let us worry later about that. But then we have other than non-governments, of course, these people who are always interested to know where you are. So there are three bigs, big brothers. Then second is big data aggregators, we call it big data aggregators. They try to know what food you like, what fashion you like, where you buy and where you shop from, what movie you watch on YouTube or on Netflix, and in which hours you watch certain movies, and how long you will be on the screen. These people, there are people who make money out of all this, and they are quantifying all our identities. This is all now possible. Actually, we as Muslims, we have been reminded that everything will be in the hereafter, everything will be displayed to us. Everything, even small thing. Yeah. So now it can already happen today. Yeah. With humans technology. They may know how many times I smile to that particular person on Facebook, for example. Have you ever got this message? Congratulations, Cikgu Ashari, between you and Mr. X, you have exchanged 450 smiles on Facebook. They're actually quantifying that because they want to know who are the person who is most meaningful to you, who is most important to you. So this is what we call as big data aggregator. They want to profile everything, and at the end, this will become a very powerful product, especially for what? For advertisement. Yeah, for advertisement. That's why advertising on internet is very powerful. Yeah, advertising on TV is one way. It's not as powerful as what we have in the internet. So they actually use it for advertisement purpose. And the third big is what? Big fans. Do you have big fans? Big fans. I asked you the first question. Do you accept as many followers? I said, yeah, they are all my fans. Followers, panggil friends. They are not really your friends, actually, right? So this is what we call in one big team as big fans, because these people, you never know what their motives are. If they are, of course, you're a very good friend, then you can be rest assured. At least you know what can happen. But if it is a stranger, oh, but he is a friend of my friend of my friend of my neighbor. You see the link lah, but is he really your friend? That is the issue, right? But unfortunately, these people, those people that you are not very familiar with, they know everything what you do, especially because of the social media. Last night, I just asked ChatGPT, dear ChatGPT, what is the most popular content on the internet? Then he said, number one, social media. He atau she. Then he/she said, or it said, social media is always number one. Yeah. Then many others. So they actually he puts still social media. Some people are trying to now to keep distance with social media, but it is still globally still the biggest. Okay, so this is the landscape is. Yeah. Now we also use mobile phone more often than any other devices, and we always keep on installing new things. And sometimes those things are not really necessary, right? Not necessary. Just because my friend has it on the phone, so I must have it also. Yeah, some apps that look cool, but you never know. Actually, you never know when to use it. They're already very full. But you know, these are free, but free in terms of payment of money. But you're actually making payment with the exchange of data, because they are able to extract some data from your mobile. So at the end, they will be profiling. So this is the mechanistic. The mechanism that has happened, and I think should be better understanding it. When it comes to, okay, we have seen headlines relating to data breaches, and some of them affecting universities. So like what I mentioned here, the first college was being summoned and prosecuted under JPDP. Yeah, the first was this particular college. College operator, the first to be hold, meaning of any other companies, this particular college. Why is it so? Because college, university, school, they hold a huge amount of personal data. Yeah. And these people, especially university, I want to emphasize, the personal data of our students are very valuable in the eyes of these big data aggregators. Why? Because they are the future market. They are the future market. For us, for me, we are towards the ending of our time, but these people, they would just finish their university time, then they start the job. They are so willing to explore the world. They start getting their salaries, and they are willing to spend the salary. So these people, that's why for university it's very, very important that we keep in mind that we are having these very valuable assets belonging to our data subjects. And few more. If you realize there will be more and more data actually affecting so many universities, many schools. And by the way, I forgot to mention that these slides you can actually download later from my blog. Yeah, in case you haven't got it, you can do it later. So you can check my blog, and my blog is mentioned there, the address, and you can get the slides from there. Okay. And certainly this has not escaped the attention of our government from time to time. They keep reminding us, including the current Prime Minister, is already one of the biggest worry for everyone. Okay, now moving to the PDPA. I bring the statute here. This is it. This is how it looks. Well, of course, it is not about the book. It's about what's inside. But this law, which was passed in 2010 and then was only enforced in 2013, had really changed the whole landscape. It basically come up with new norms. We have heard about new norms since the COVID pandemic. We started new norms in doing things, in doing works, in meeting people, in shaking hands, and so on and so forth. But actually, this law also coming out with a big, changes that we have to adjust. We have to adjust because the law is always there in order to form the behavior of people. That is basically it. So if someone was saying, look, because of this law, I have to do this, have to do that, that's it. That's what the law is. You can ask Cik Raja, but why we have law, why we need a law. I remember in one of the national conference, we had this discussion. Sitting beside me was the PDP commissioner at that time, back in 2013, very early. So people are still not very used to this law. And then the first question asking from the audience, the person looks very angry. He looked very angry. He was standing and he was basically saying, look, I don't like this law because this law disrupts our business. Then we were asking, what business are you, sir? What business are you in, sir? His business was in direct marketing. Certainly, this is one of the change that we want to have. Yeah, direct marketing has been done in so way that in so many ways, which ignores, people's concerns, people's rights. Data has been so easily and freely traded out there, and at the end, we will be the suffering people. If you remember, one of the trigger of this act, actually back in 2007, 2006, was about the credit reporting. Yeah, credit. So somebody actually went to the bank asking for the loan and then was rejected, and he was only told that actually we reject because you are on some blacklist list. Then of course he was very shocked. I didn't know about this list, and I didn't know that I was blacklisted there. Yeah, so this blacklist, this list, which blacklist people, unfortunately was done beyond the knowledge of these people. And what makes it more devastating was that the data in that document was not necessarily correct, because this person said finally he realized that somehow in that record he was still considered as a bankrupt, for example, or he was still owing some money to certain. He still has some legal cases pending. Well, actually, some of these are already settled. The problem is the person who collected the data, they only collected once from the public domain. They did not follow up what happens after that. So the data only says that he was bankrupt at certain point of time. He doesn't mention whether he was discharged of that bankruptcy or whether he had paid all his loan and so on and so forth. So this was very heatedly debated and become a trigger of the finally the enactment of the law. It's about privacy. So do you think you have privacy? Or if I change the question, do you need a privacy? Yes, I think we have all yeses here. Because there is a very inherent thing, and our court already affirmed recently back in 2022 that privacy is part of our constitutional right. Yeah, this was first mentioned in 2009 in Siwara Sarasia's case, and then if you hear legal people speaking, then there must be some cases being cited. Yeah? And recently in 2022, another case from the High Court in Kuala Lumpur saying, yes, we have right to privacy to our data and it is duly protected. So in implementing this law, we have to be very mindful that people have right to privacy. Yeah, the right to privacy must be respected. What is right to privacy? Basically, privacy comes in so many dimensions. Yeah, I remember when I was in Korea, jalan-jalan, and then I realized over there, people when they use their camera phone, it was required that the sound of the clicking must be heard, cannot be silent. Sound of camera. When someone snap a picture, that one cannot be muted. Wow, I was amazed to know that. So I was, then I realized that this is because of the law. Yeah, people cannot easily snap pictures of people in public without making him known. Of course, the best is to ask permission. Yeah. Because this thing is so much about, your the tranquility, whether you can live in peace or not in public. If we don't have rule for this, that people every day, they have this phone camera and they keep taking pictures of everything. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, previously, we have this similar case, but the court had not really enforced the right to privacy. Well, academic debates, but now I think soon the courts will be more willing to accommodate that there is right to privacy that can be enforced, especially it can cause some distress, malu, embarrassment, and so on. Okay, so right to privacy is a lot. Yeah, privacy to your house, privacy to your body, privacy to your communications, privacy to your asset. Here we are talking about data, privacy of the data. Yeah. Privacy to your data, which is, it can be communications data, it can be your, your family data, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so this is a very important law to really protect the right to privacy. But of course, we must say that right to privacy is very big. This is not the only law about privacy. Recently, Malaysia just passed another very important law under penal code, against stalking. Stalking itu apa? Stalking, hendap, bahasa Melayu, menghendap, menghendap. So some people stalking, bukan stalking kaki ini. So stalking now is an offense, under penal code section 507A, 507A. It's a new, only this year it's being passed, and we already have a case where someone, this stalking, how does it happen? Stalking ni sometimes through social media. Yeah, of course it's not wrong to have your data on social media, but some people make use of this data to profile you, to follow you, to use it against you. This is stalking. At the end, it causes some distress, yeah, some emotional damage or disturbance. This is stalking. Only this year, this has been made as an offense. So this is also another law, yeah, for privacy. So there are many laws, not only this data protection law. Let us proceed. Okay, now, okay, bear with me because in this slide it's very legalistic, yeah, but I try to make it as simple as possible. The good thing about this PDPA, Malaysia is the first, the first country in ASEAN to have the law. Yeah, it's a good thing. Meaning we had visionary leaders, visionary legislatures who provide the law. But of course, we cannot be happy only to that statement, right? What happens next is how the law is being implemented. But at least to say that Malaysia is the first ASEAN country, at least it means something. But other countries are catching up, as you see, the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, and Indonesia. Okay, this is another feature of this law. Whatever we are saying just now and all these things, they don't apply to government. They don't apply to government. Now, sometimes people are asking what government here means. In PDPA, you only say government. If you go to some interpretation act so on, government is either federal government or state government. So actually, they are all being excluded by this PDPA. But now I remember the first few years, there were so many agencies, organizations coming up. They wanted to be excluded because they feel that they are part of government. I know this because I have been with the department. So to be very strict, of course, the law doesn't say anything else. Meaning anything which is not exactly part of the government is not to be excluded. So for example, government-linked companies, the company which is owned by government, they are not government. Oh, but they act like government. Okay lah, tak apa. To act as government. But legally speaking, no. They are a company. They are companies. What about local authorities? Local authorities, Majlis Perbandaran. The answer is no. They are not part of government. Meaning the law also applies to them. Why? Because they are established in such a way they are different from government. And other agencies, statutory bodies, they are not government. What are examples of statutory bodies? EPF, LHDN. Okay, so all this, though they are doing for some government-related functions, but they are not government. Meaning they are also have to comply with the law. What about the universities? They are statutory bodies, right? These public universities. We are not talking about UIA. Different scale. Yeah, they are all. So they come with their own statutory. So they are not government. Yeah. What about UIA? Certainly lah. UIA is not part of the government, and it is not even a statutory body university. This is based on the company, so general rule applies. Yeah. Okay. It applies to data users. Yeah, in commercial transaction. What does it mean? Commercial transaction covers lots of meaning. Among others, services. So our university is providing services, right? Which is education service. So it is aptly within the meaning of the data user. Who is the data user? The IIUM as the institution, as a body. And what about these people who are working for you? So they are considered as the agent, agent for the university, which means what we do is we do for the university. We do it on behalf of the university and for the purpose of university. Therefore, anything wrong, it actually belongs to the problem of university. But don't forget, because we have this section 133 in the PDPA, just because you are an agent doesn't mean that you are not responsible. So meaning if anything goes wrong, for example, you are doing some processing of students' data and suddenly the student data leaking. Though it belongs to university and between you and university, there are two different people, but since you are part of the whole management system, then we have this concept of joint liability, meaning the people, the staff may be individually and jointly liable with the university. I will show you more on that. Okay, what is personal data? We've been talking about personal data. Then you see, actually it covers everything. Basically, the keyword is very important. It's easy. The keyword is whether it is identified or identifiable to a person. For example, if you see this book, does it identify you to a person? No. Yeah, it's a book, except a book with all personal data. If you see the list of students but without names, let's say we have the students with metric number only. Is it identifiable to the person? Is it a unique number? Metric number? If it is unique number, then it's easy to identify a person. Then it is a personal data. So there is the main criteria. Does it make it identifiable or not? The problem sometimes the data alone is not enough. But the X says if you have this data which is not enough to identify, but you have another set of data that you can combine and make this one be identifiable, therefore this one is also part of that personal data. Dah jadi semua lah. So anything related to our students, especially within our keeping, there is a way. If there is a way, unless there is ada one list, the students who join a field trip to Pahang, 15 female, 20 male students. The 15 female, 3 from ICOL, 5 from engineering, 2 from others, and so on. You have those only without any other identifier, right? That one remains as non-personal data. You nak tampal, you want to share everywhere, also can. Because people cannot identify that with data. Yeah, that's why now your IC number, because it's very unique to everyone, the whole nation. The best way for us to do is not to display the whole IC number. Yeah, maybe the last 4, the last 3 digit. Yeah, jangan last 2 digit, susah sangat. Siapa ni? Yeah, or phone number. Phone number pun sama. Yeah, phone number. Arguably, if you have the list of phone number, there are some ways actually to identify who people behind this number. Actually, it's debatable, but to me, as long as there is, or there are some ways to identify who the person inside behind the number, then it should be protected. For example, I have the number. I have a number. Then I can just make a call to them, right? And then, or I keep it on WhatsApp. Then the name will appear. That is also another way. So that about it. It can be very different context from one data to another, but the criteria is that. Then sensitive personal data. There's also one aspect called sensitive. So the law says that sensitive personal data are only these 3. But of course, in real life, there are many more other sensitive data, right? There are some questions that you don't want to hear people asking you, isn't it? For example, how old are you? Is it sensitive or not? Different people may take it differently. Or salary. Yeah, this is the first day for you, meet people, and then suddenly you ask, how much you earn? Because something sensitive. Yeah. Or do you take loan for your house and so on? So you know those are things. But for the purpose of the law, only these 3 things, which is what? mental or physical health information, for example, asking you, are you suffering some kind of disease? This is sensitive. I will tell you why, what to do with that. Then political opinions, sensitive. Religious beliefs, sensitive. Other beliefs is not, I mean, the other beliefs here must be the one which is related to this. Or criminal record, they are sensitive. Now the question is, can we collect data when they are sensitive data? The answer is yes, with some stringent regulation, some stringent requirement. What is that? You must ask explicit consent to get that data. You cannot simply discreetly collecting data, when it comes to all this. Now you ask yourself, we ask ourselves in URA, are we collecting this data or not? From our students, visitors, from our staff, are we collecting this data? Some of them, physical or mental health, we will be asking them. Why do we ask them? Of course, for some reasons. To cover insurance, or maybe for some benefit and so on. Then you have to get this information. But since these are considered as sensitive information, then it must be made explicit. Explicit means you let them know that you are collecting it for certain purpose and so on, and you must get an explicit approval. Tak boleh agak-agak. Agaknya dia okay je. Cannot. This is not explicit. All right. Political opinions. We don't really collect political opinions data, right? But they actually share. People share it, especially today. Criminal record. Maybe for some employment purpose, maybe. But I will tell you, it's not that we cannot do this, but we will see what to do when you want to collect all this. And then the meaning of data processing, as I said, is almost everything. You don't have to read all these words. Nanti pening. So basically, anything that you do with personal data, collecting, then sharing, recording, holding, storing, and then displaying it elsewhere. Display. We used to display things, right? And our offices, we display announcements. These students, please come to the office. Terus siap dengan matric number, IC number, and so on. Nanti ada. We have the rule, minimize. One of the rule is to minimize. Only disclose what is necessary. Okay, next. I take this all into our context. Credit to the person who draw this caricature. Whoever he is, because I take this from the website. Is it Brother Ihsan or not? Okay. So I just tampal-tampal lah, letak all this, See what you see here down there? These are people around us. We call this data subjects. So IAUM must bear in mind, we collect, we process data of these people. Unless I miss out anything. Employees, students, service providers. Who are service providers? Anyone outside who provide their services. For example, apa tadi? DBSB ke, BBSB ke, any other SB lah. Because they are not part of IAUM, legally speaking, they are outside. But now you are processing their data. But don't forget, you are also sharing your data, our data to them. They are also having access to our data. There is another risk that we need to understand. So many cases, so many cases in Malaysia and elsewhere, data breach because of this situation. Not blaming any particular parties, but sometimes we just forgot. Oh, actually, there are some people outside there who also have access to our data. So we require some very good safeguards, very strong legal safeguards between us and our data service providers. Students, of course, is the biggest. And that includes alumni. Because we are still holding the alumni data. Unless we are releasing everything, so alumni is not in our formula. But alumni is still in our formulation because we still process our data. Their data. Visitors. Do we collect visitors data? Anyone can share? Visitors, any visitors to the mosque, to our students, to our program, do we collect their data or not? Security, yes. Do the security collect their data? Sometimes yes. Collect apa? IC ke? No, not IC, right? Maybe driving license. Do they keep it there? Do they take picture? Setengah tu they do that lah. They scan, they take picture, or they keep the card there. These are among the, of course, we're not saying wrong, necessarily wrong, if it is needed in such a way, but that you must have some safeguards. How to secure, do you need to keep it? Is it within like 24 hours to be deleted and so on and so forth. You must have all this. Okay. Families, we collect families of students, families data, data of students' families, data of staff families. Because all my kids, all my kids and wife, without S, data, wife, apostrophe S, data, with IAM. And also that's everyone. We surrender the name for some of the data for some reasons. So these are, remember, we are keeping these people's data. So they must be within our framework. And for what purpose? I try to put some examples only. These are not exhaustive. Enrollment. We collect so many data during enrollments of students. Academic purpose. Online media. How is it online media? We have YouTube, we have all this social media, right? And we collect data of visitors or people who ask questions and so on and so forth. They are within our. And then student affairs, internal communications, emails, especially so many involving personal data. Immigration, we have had anyone from IO here? Okay, I was. So we had a good talk about this aspect. Security and discipline, we just mentioned discipline has under OLA. Security, we have CCTV, do we? We have CCTV, right? Throughout campus. So what happens with the images captured by the CCTV? Who keep it? Who has access to it? How long is it going to be kept? Where do we keep it? For what purpose? And to whom we share? So these are always questions. Health services, wow, huge data. Huge data in clinics, hospitals. E-learning platform. Human resources, one of the biggest as well. One of the biggest. It covers a lot, everything, almost everything of our life is there. Anyone from MSD here? No? Online. Okay. So of course, this is the biggest, one of the biggest pool, human resource, especially when it comes to employees. What do you do with the data of employees who had resigned or who are no longer in UIA? Do we still keep their data? For what purpose? Do you justify? Do you have it in writing, that justification? These are questions that will apply to everyone. ITD. Do you collect data of IP addresses, geolocations of people who access our media? You have all those data, right? Geolocation, for example. But are they identifiable? Yes, to some extent they are identifiable. Insurance, academic, and so on and so forth. So I just want to show you how huge the pool of data we have and how complicated it can be. And to make it more complicated is that the data processing take place independently from one place to another, from one office to another. So when we talk about personal data protection, it is not only about ITD. Puan Normaliza perhaps should be very relieved about it. You are not alone. Everyone, this is everyone's business. This is everyone's business because everyone is considered as the owner of the data processing. Okay, what is it that basically this law is about? So the gist of the law, if we are to kita nak kupas, kita nak ambil isi intipati, the intipati, the gist is actually this one, 7 principles. So you are excused not to know other parts for this 2 hour or 1.5 hour talk. But this is the one that at least telling you. First is, okay, we have 7 principles. First is called general principle. General principle does or happens in the beginning of the processing. Normally when you collect. So when you collect, make sure the collection is lawful. How to make sure the collection is lawful? Number 1, did you get the consent of the people? That has been the milestone. That's the cornerstone of the law. Yeah. However, consent is not the only basis. Sometimes we collect data without consent, as long as we have actually some situations where consent is not necessary. For example, it is necessary for the purpose of law enforcement, for the purpose of prevention of crime, for the purpose of helping people. Yeah, helping, for example, especially these hospitals, medical. You want to take action on somebody, do you need to know who he is first? No, ada satu patient coming in, very critical condition. Do you need to get who he is first? Nanti dah terpergi dahulu. So we better take action. In this situation to help, we call it vital interest. When there is a vital interest, you don't need to wait for consent. But in other normal situation, consent is necessary. But since it is UIA, in the context of UIA, when we have lots of relationship with staff and everything, there is a contract, right? All of us, we have an agreement with UIA. And based on this agreement, we are supposed to do some things. And UIA is supposed to give certain things and also to do certain things. So that contract of employment actually defines the whole set of things where personal data can be utilized. That one no longer requires consent, as long as it is part of our job. Yeah, that's why someone was asking me, some people's data are put online. How is that? Yeah, IIUM staff. You can see your data right online because it is there. You can check data of every staff. So is it a breach to privacy or not? And that was done without my consent. Remember, you are staff, especially, for example, if you are a lecturer. Of course, people need to know about you. They want to know what subjects you have been teaching, what research you have been doing, how long you have been doing, how long you have been teaching. So all this data that we see online, they're actually necessary for the purpose of exercising our job as a lecturer, for example. So there's no issue about that. That's why, as long as so far I don't see any data which is excessive. Yeah, because if you see, if you look at the CV of a lecturer, you can actually get lots of data, but most of the data actually related to the lecturer punya, research, teaching, consultancy, and so on. That's it. It doesn't display lecturer's favorite food ke, married to who, kan? Tak ada. But you better check. And sometimes we didn't realize some of those data. Hey, you feel that this is too much, then you must change. You better change. Don't wait until people complain. This is why we need to look back. Whichever office you are doing, look back. What kind of data actually we share to people and what not. So this, you don't need consent because it is part of the contract. Yeah. And many others. If you buy something online, certainly they will need your address. Kalau tak bagi address mana? Where to send? Send through computer lah boleh. You want to buy food, send address also lah. So it is part of the contract to be executed. That one we cannot You cannot complain unless if the data is used for other purpose. There is another thing, because under general principle also you must be very clear for what purpose it is, and you use it only for that purpose. Limitation, we call it. Limitation as well as minimization. Minimization means you don't collect data too much, otherwise you will be data obese. Ada istilah tu, ada. Belum pernah dengar, first time. Data obese, obesity, meaning you take data too much, macam you eat too much, itulah. So you don't take data too much unnecessary. Not only it will create problems for you if you collect data unnecessarily, and problem with storage, problem with managing it, and problem with legal issue later. People will complain. Yeah. Then notice and choice means you have to notify. Now the question is, do we have that notice, privacy notice? UIA, do we have that notice where the students, the moment they apply, potential students, or job applicants, the moment they apply job, do we have, or do they have any way to go to check our data policy or not? Because this is part of it. We have to notify them from the beginning. Look, you are applying the job in UIA. Okay, remember, okay, these are things that we will collect from you. We will use it for this purpose. We will keep it in such a way and sharing it in such a way. Yeah. And in other words, we are not going to use it for other things. So all this need to be stated. This under the principle of notice and choice. Choice means these people, the moment they know, let's say if there are some risks and so on, they can choose not to give the data. But this one only applies to those which they can choose. Otherwise, as I said, you want to buy something online, you have no choice but to send the address. But where they can choose, they can choose. You give them the choice. Okay, there's notice and choice. Third one, disclosure. Sometimes you want to disclose this data to third parties. As long as it is something which is part of the job, it's okay. Now the problem is we keep disclosing things not only to anyone but to public. Yeah, one of the interesting case of PDPA is when this national airlines company, the national airlines company, what happened was one of their staff, she saw a celebrity artist lah, boarding the plane. So what happened was, and she was not alone. She was with another person. That time not yet married. Ini berita, the huge news. So what happened was, she was actually handling the boarding pass. The moment she had that chance, she took picture of that boarding pass, the two people, the couple, and posted them online. And basically saying to the whole world, look, I just saw this two couple. The problem is that especially these two people were subject to some gossiping at that time, some stories. Listen. This happened many years ago. So the artist, the couple actually sued the national airline company a huge amount, and finally they settle it outside the court. They basically settle and they pay compensation. But this is it, meaning you disclose those data unnecessarily to people who are not supposed to. We are not even talking about public. You disclose to third party who are not supposed to have it, and it can be a problem. Then security. Security is another big loopholes, where many data breaches happen. Security, Sekarang ni apa isunya? Online scam, kan? Online scam. Who in this room hasn't been targeted by scammer? Either you are living in different world, atau you are not using handphone at all, or no social media at all. The chance is everyone must be targeted one way or another. Security, But remember, I think especially those people in IT, the threat to security does not only cover malicious attack. Yeah, so many problems actually are rooted from negligence. Negligence in handling the data. So this is also considered as a threat to security. Non-malicious. We are always, remember hacker. But then basically the threat is just around us. Insider negligence pula. Do you know that the first case of cybercrime, the first cybercrime case in the UK, back in 1988, I was still in elementary school. Back in 1988, dah sekarang dah tahu usia saya, menyesal saya. Terexpose. Back in 1988, the first cybercrime case in UK was not because of a hacker. This guy managed to get a company's login and password. You know what he did? He actually attended a trade exhibition. You always go to a trade exhibition and you have all the exhibitor. And this one person from this company, and this company actually belongs to the biggest telecom company in UK. He was with computer. And he was actually accessing at that time, and it was in the crowd, many people around. And this person was right at the back, behind the person, when he was accessing the system. So he could see, the login name as well as the password. What do we call this in IT? This technique? Shoulder surfing. Nothing technical at all. Because someone was not aware when you wanted to put an access login on this, make sure everything is clear. See? That is the first cybercrime case, and it happened before the UK has the cybercrime law. So they have to go to other law to make it. So security is about that. It's about negligence, as well as malicious. Okay. Next, retention. Retention means penyimpanan, storing. How do you store the data and how long you store the data? That is also an issue. How long you store the data? Do you keep the data forever? Do we have this disposal mechanism? Especially if the data is no longer needed. Imagine a student already graduated. Dia pun dah kerja, dah jadi lecturer. But we still keep their data. Oh, that is for alumni purpose. Okay, good. We have some alumni relationship purpose. But not everything, will be relevant to alumni relationship purpose. Then we have this duty to ensure whichever data not required will have to be deleted. A staff resign, a staff pension, or a staff, basically no longer with us. What do we do with their data? Then you realize, okay, we actually have some other rules and laws that want to tell us, that actually tell us to keep the data for some time. Okay, that is okay. Meaning, we still can keep it for the purpose of exercising or for the purpose of that particular law. That is okay, meaning the data is still required. But after that, for example, Consumer Protection Act, under the regulation, if you do some online purchases and so on, you must keep the data, 2 years, the data of the consumers, 2 years. At least they, at most maximum, no, not maximum, even minimum. It's by the law, 2 years. You cannot delete it before 2 years. So after that, then the law is no more applicable, and if there is no more purpose, then you delete the data. So we have to consider how you delete the data, how you anonymize the data. Other than delete, you may want to anonymize. Anonymize itu maksudnya you delete all the names, delete all the IC number, all the identifier, delete, then you still have the rest of the data. That is possible. We call it anonymizing data or anonymized data. Data integrity. It means that when you collect data, make sure the data is correct, is up to date. Yeah, it is not misleading. That's why always in the form we put some clause ya ataupun reminder. I, the undersigned, ensure that the data I provide was correct, up to date, and accurate at the time of the filling of the form. That one is required because otherwise it is difficult for us. At least our part is to inform the people, but people have to abide and make sure the data is accurate. That is data integrity. And last but not least, data access. Data access, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the principles that will keep us very, very busy in the future. Why? Because with this data access, actually the law gives right to everyone. Our student, our staff, our visitors, our alumni, and all these people, they have right to knock our door and ask about their data. So this is a right of data subject, right of data access, sorry. Yeah. And we cannot simply reject the request. Why would we want to do this? Sometimes, for example, we suspect that the data is leaking, and then we got some, unwanted emails or calls and so on. Then you realize that the data which was leaking was data from your university, or maybe data of your bank sometime. Yeah, you dapat call, then you are asking, where do you get this data from? Did you ever ask that one? These people, unknown people, offering you this, offering that. Have you ever tried asking, where did you get my data from? Yeah, please try, and you will be upset because they will not tell you. They will only tell you from our database. But then sometimes you will realize that some data, there is no other way you get this data but from some providers, maybe from telco, banks, or from my workplace and so on. Then you may want to ask this bank, or you may want to ask your workplace. Knock, knock, knock. Who's that? It's me. I want to ask. I'm your data subject. My name is so-and-so. I want to ask what happens with my data. What do you do with my data? Is there any leak, or do you have, to whom are you sharing the data, and so on and so forth. They want to ask lots of questions, and this is allowed under the Act. We call it data access request, DAR. Yeah. So this will make us busy in future. For now, not so much because people are not really asking, but in other countries where they already have the law working, they know they have this right, they can always ask because they want to make sure there is no breach. Okay, so this is all about data protection principles. And if you see that, the offense, so it may trigger imprisonment of up to 2 years or fines up to 300,000 ringgit Malaysia, maximum, yeah, or both. And who is to be responsible? If it is university data, university will be responsible. But look at the second one. Employee can be jointly liable if he managed or assisted in the affairs of the employer. For example, the data which is leaking was from ingat nak sebut macam kesian pula. Example, ITD. So yang ditanya orang ITD lah. Siapa yang tanya? Ramai. Director lah. Oh, then director. Nah, I'm telling you the tips, yeah. Director, then you said, no, yes, it is data in ITD, but as far as I'm concerned, I already did my part. I put all the system to make sure it's working well. I put the system to monitor. And then I can show you I have done everything reasonable. Therefore, I won't be liable. Yes, you can do that. We call this discharge by proving of due diligence. Jadi kalau kita dah buat apa yang patutnya buat, then no worries. Then suddenly you can point out, Actually, the leak was from this particular table. Jadi blame gaming pula. But of course, I mean, if it's to be done, then forensic can identify where the data leakage comes from, then the particular office might have to be answerable to that. And they need to show what have you done, your due diligence. Adakah sudah dibuat atau tidak? In section 133, ini penting 133 talking about the due diligence duty. See, if he failed to take reasonable precaution and due diligence to prevent it, then that's it. Remember, to prevent. We are not talking about what comes after, tapi prevent. So, for example, what? Your policy, dah ada ke? Policy. Make it very clear and known to people. Second, people are informed. In your office, people are informed about their duties. Number 3, you don't only put requirement, You don't only put requirement, then you don't monitor. You need to monitor. How do you monitor the implementation of the rules? This is all part of the due diligence. Okay. Let's see what we have. Okay, this is to show you, because just now I show you the 7 principles, but how it works, it actually works to make it easy. It works like this. For example, you just take your own division, your own company, your own office, division, or your own work. Then you see the whole life cycle is there. Start collecting data, using data, storing data, and then you need to dispose data. So in each of these, there will be some principles required. When you collect, for example, make sure you collect it with legal basis. Either you get consent, or you get actually a reason because it's part of the contract. Yeah. So like, for example, a lecturer collecting data of students, as long as it is required for the academic purpose, academic matters, then there is a pretty well a very good reason for lecturers to do that. But the moment you want to share it, beyond that activity, then that can be a problem because it's not considered limited to that purpose. So to collect, then when you use, make sure you don't exceed the purpose. Remember always what is the data is used for, is collected for. Then you control the disclosure. Then your security must be in place. Security here, it covers a lot of things. I think I mentioned some of that before. Technical, non-technical, including organizational security. How do you, where do you put your monitor? Just now I mentioned, if you put your monitor just where the people are passing by, it's not very secure setting. I will show you what to do when it comes to security later, because many of you comes from technical as well as IT. Then storage, you store the data as long as you still need the data. Example from Ahmad here ataupun stat, because as long as the students' activity is still going on, then you keep the data. The moment the event is done, what you do with this data? You dispose. Basically, especially it's one-off, for the student activity, there is no reason for us to keep the data any longer. Except for something which is yang sudah ada dalam database, database UIA adalah name, metric number, address. Okay lah tu. You still can keep it. I mean, for the purpose, as long as you still know what the purpose is. But any other thing which is very specific for one particular event, memang kena delete lah, kena dispose, unless you make it anonymous. So we have another, now the issue of anonymization is very important. Now people come up with some solutions and techniques and product how to anonymize data. So that's of course beyond this talk. For audit purpose, remember all this personal data system will be required if the authority comes to audit. Actually, there is this provision under the JPDP, under PDPA. The JPDP, Jabatan Perlindungan Data Pribadi, ataupun the commissioner of PDP may come to UIA just to do an audit. It's part of their job. But normally they will tell us first, normally, because it's not for the purpose of punishing, but to make sure compliance. Okay, this is example again, because I want to make it very, very specific to the context of our university. For example, in students' data life cycle, before enrollment, there is processing. After enrollment, a lot more processing. And even after graduation, there will be processing. For each of these process, and they are being done by different officers, different divisions. But remember, they are doing it on behalf of URA, meaning it's still URA punya data processing, but they're being done by different officers. Then it is very important that each office knows what to do. There's a big SOP. That's why there must be a big policy across the sectors, across the officers that we must have under the university. At the same time, for that particular purpose, maybe for admission, for finance, for mahala, residential, yeah, for clinic, they have some, at least few, small SOP when it comes to their particular work need to be there. So exactly after enrollment, a lot more data processing. And externally, why? We have situations where our data are being requested by third parties. I think I mentioned in the very beginning, a lot of other people out there very interested, yeah, to get data of our students for so many reasons. Yeah. So we must be very careful. These people are third parties, they are not part of our obligations, not part of our relationship between us and the students. Yeah. So if it goes to a third party which is not part of the academic and whatever purpose, then we better be very, very careful, because we are making a disclosure which is not potentially not lawful. It will be different if you are sharing it to the hospital, because from our hospital we have to transfer it to another hospital. You have to share it to another hospital, or to insurance because they need to cover the insurance. Of course, that is all part of the whole life. That's why we need to be very clear first. Yeah, what are the data processing activities that we have for our students? There is only student. The second one, next slide, is staff. This is an example I put because it's the most familiar to me. At the Kulliyah. So for example, at the Kulliyah, employment purpose. So from the recruitment, job application, interviews, post-interview, and so on. Lots of data being collected and being stored. HR matters. We have a lot of all these things. Administrative, academic life. I think Prof. Norbik was saying something out of maybe real experience. Yeah. And this is happens to me. When you go to some facilities, you want to log in, log off, yeah, from common computers, then you realize actually the person before you came already using and he didn't log off. So the whole things are there, yeah, whole system not yet logged off. Or sometimes email. Some people, some lecturers, yeah, they use the public computers for accessing emails, and all the emails are still there. So if you have so much liberty and time, you will sit and smile to some of the email. That will happen, isn't it? Because they are all supposed to be private, not good for other people's eyes. What more if this is relating to another third parties? Therefore, this thing are part of the very common situations. Or you go to printing machine, as we said, photocopy machine, then some people just printed out salary slip, for example. Then left it. Azan. Oh, azan calling. Allahu Akbar. Pergi masjid. Lupa. He left out his very important, confidential, and private data in the photocopy machine. And if this goes to a wrong hand, of course, many things can happen. Academic life, research data. Yeah. For research, the good news is that the PDPA gives many exemptions for research, as long as it is for research and it's to be made anonymous after that. So if you want to do research, for example, I want to do certain research, I don't have to get consent from all these people that I'm researching about. Not everyone, but for example, if you make research on clinical or medical issues, medical and so on, remember we have these specific sections about sensitive personal data. Right. Okay, specific about security, because many people come from IT here. I think they are more than familiar about all this. but the law says practical steps. That is quite difficult. When the law says practical steps or sometimes reasonable steps, you don't really know what is actually required. That is why you need to make your own assessment. What is reasonable at certain situation? For example, when you want to keep a data, remember we're not talking only about digital data, but also data on paper. How many? I mean, we still use data on paper, right? Paper-based data. Then where are you going to put all these papers? Okay, let's say you shred later when you are done, but you still want to keep it. So some people keep it in the very strong locker cabinet with 2 or 3 padlock. Sometimes they just for some other file they just put it under the drawer, easily exposed, and some other data they just put it on the table. Yeah. So this is when we have to exercise our reasonable step, our practical step, depending on the nature of the harm of that data. Where do you want to put it? Yeah. Of course, not all papers are going to the lockers. Otherwise, you will need a very big lockers. Some of them will put in some drawers nearby, or maybe in drawers in lock and so on. So this is example, yeah, how you keep the data according to the nature of the harm. Yeah, for example, the nature of harm. Then the location of storage. Which one is more secure than the other? In every kuliah we have apa dipanggil strong room. Apa dalam bahasa Melayu? Bilik kebal. Ingat bilik kuat tadi. Bilik kebal, yeah? Especially for very, very confidential data. So we only put certain type of data in that bilik kebal, yeah, not all papers. So this is what I mean, depending on the nature of harm and location of storage and so. And about sending email, for example, I saw you in one of the university was caught in data breach because they sent personal data of students by email. So you have to exercise your diligence, your assessment, what kind of personal data can be sent by email and what cannot be sent by email. Yeah. So because at least you have some, this is not only down to personal assessment, but by official SOP, there must be some classification. Yeah. What kind of data that you should not send by email, for example, or even if you send by email, make sure the email is, or the data is encrypted, for example, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I used to receive, for example, important data, but the document is not encrypted, or sometimes they just left out open. A very important letter, for example, is sent in the format of a Word document. Can be easily changed, right? Yeah. Then, for example, I receive my employment contract in Word document. Then I can easily change the salary. And then I say, oh, I received salary. Tell me, oh, why you only send me this? Then, because there will be some, at least there will be dispute. But in order to minimize that, you create a PDF file, for example, instead of Word document. So this, I think, all these things need to be further put here in better SOPs. Okay, there was a question. What about our university? Do we need who is going to oversee all this? We had this discussion with Prof Norbik, with Tuan Raja Badrul. Yeah, who is supposed to do that? Puan Wanzila, also there. The director Normaliza. Sorry, sorry, salah. So we were having this debates. Who is supposed to oversee the whole things? Because it's not for me to say. But what is important, we need to have one coordinating office as far as you are concerned, because it's going to go across divisions, officers, kuliahs, and so on. One coordinating officer at university level to look into this. Even though the law does not mention anything about data protection officer, but actually we need this for so many reasons. Maybe to handle requests of access, to handle requests to correct data, to handle inquiries and complaints, to coordinate different officers, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Was it ITD? Was it Ola? Was it MSD? But as a matter of fact, each of these division, as far as I know, they have a limited jurisdiction, right? Limited jurisdiction. So, and PDPA is about everything. For example, one day I saw in one of the corridor, I saw all computers are being disposed of. And what happened was they were put outside the office, and these computers stay for some days, including CPUs. So what's the risk? There are so many data, perhaps a lot of data inside that CPUs. I might be wrong, maybe the CPUs had no longer this and so on, but anything like this can happen. I mean, these CPUs had been left outside the office for so many days, not knowing what can happen to that. And it seems to like escape our attention. Maybe that is an ITD, but what if this happens in any office, you know, and as a matter of fact, ITD doesn't have jurisdiction to every other office. Then it goes down to very specific owner of the data processing. Okay, so there is for the university management to take up further, and I just want to remind us about this. Something need to be done at the university level to be clear out, yeah, who is to take that kind of responsibility. And for your information, the government is now undergoing a review of the law. It has been since 2019. I was part of that review team at that time, but due to COVID and so on, it all stopped, and the government also stopped, keep changing, and now they restart the discussion again. And I can foresee that one of the change they want to introduce is that for especially the big players, big personal data poolers or data users, they want to require them to have specifically appointed data protection officer. Of course, nothing is official, but it's already in the discussion. But we don't have to wait until that, knowing that how, you know, law amendment is going on. It may expose to lots of delays and so on. So just give you some sense of it. Are we ready? Actually, question here, not for you, but for all of us. Yeah, are we ready to answer this? Yeah, in case people want to know what we do with our data. How do you collect my data? Do you collect only data from the form that I fill up, or you also collect the data from the CCTV? There's also my data there. Yeah, but the question is, do you notify it? Whenever there is CCTV, do you realize that there will be some signage, right? This place is under CCTV, isn't it? Or don't we have that in our campus? I think we should have that. Why is that? Because we are respecting privacy of people. At least people will behave. They will not do strange movement. That's why in the lift, yeah, everyone is behaving so well. Because there is a CCTV. Keluar lift aja, wah terus. Yeah. So we want to respect people's privacy. At least notification is there that this place is under CCTV. Then people might want to ask, okay, you have CCTV around, what do you use it for? Then somebody in the university needs to be able to answer that. Yeah, we use it for this particular purpose and so on. Online media, yeah. Does your online media collect my personal data? If yes, for what purpose? Okay, do you ask for consent before processing? If not, why? For example, a police come to university, and they do come, right? They do come from time to time. They may ask, can you get the data of this particular person? Maybe a staff, maybe a student, and so on. This is also situation where consent might not be needed, especially if it was made clear that it was used for the purpose of maybe detection of crime, prevention of crime, law enforcement, and so on. This is one of the example where consent is not needed. Takkan kita nak call dulu student, polis datang minta you punya ni. Boleh bagi tak? Of course, you are not doing it that way. Or staff for that. Yeah? Nanti staff tu kata, tak boleh. Dia kena minta terus dari saya. Wah, he wants to be very compliant. Yeah? But this actually the law will allow that. Okay. But this is, of course, as I said, it must be made clear that there was this particular reason why you want the data of this particular person. Yeah, it so happens that some agencies might come and to ask for the whole blanket of data. Oh, we want data of students, yeah, because we want to get them to to chase them for some reasons. But the problem is, of course, they are third parties. They are not law enforcement, so there's no reason. Yeah, we are answerable to our students. We are answerable to our staff. Data should not be easily disclosed without justification. That's why Section 6 general principle is very, very important. Do you notify them? Do you have adequate data security? Look, if your question is, do you notify them before you process the data? Then show me the data policy, data privacy policy, personal data protection policy. If you go to any website now, for example, you want to buy airline tickets, Air Asia's, Lion Air, Malindo, and so on, you will see they're actually notifying their data privacy policy, why they collect your data, for what purpose, to whom they are sharing the data, and so on and so forth. How long will you retain my data? This also should be within our understanding and also policy. The best is to write everything. Yeah, for example, the data of alumni, we keep it. Certain data of the alumni, we keep it forever, as long as there is an alumni relationship, until and unless we disown the alumni, for example. But some data will not be kept. We will dispose it off. When for former employees, for example, what kind of data will be required for what purpose and so on. So it's really paperwork, I must say. It's a paperwork, and everyone will be involved. If not for the development of the paperwork, at least for the enforcement and the implementation of that paperwork. So you have all these lists to check, and whenever there's audit, people want, this authority, they want to know about all this. Okay, I will not show you this one first, if there's any question so far. But before, sorry, I still have one, but that one I skip, yeah. We still have time for questions, right? Right. Let me just show you very quickly. This is what we should do to roll out the PDPA program. And this is for all of us to make sure it's successful. Yeah, all of us, personally as well as collectively. First, basic thing, building the internal awareness. I suppose this kind of awareness session should not only go once, twice, but should be regular. It doesn't mean that I have to always speak to you like this, but you can do awareness program, poster program, and so on. And then governance. This is where I think we have to enhance or to look back. Appoint leaders and owners of compliance measures, either from university level or lower levels, yeah, because they all will be involved. Baselining and benchmarking, for example, defining your PDP program goals. Why do we process data, for example? We need to have all those, yeah, in our written policies as well as SOPs. Define the measures to achieve the goals. Define time frame. Team, you need a team, yeah. We cannot only rely on one or two or few people, but this is the whole team. Therefore, we need budget. Ada orang finance? Ada. We need budget if you are online. Because this will require, yeah, this will require the whole, a restructure of the program and so on, plan, etc. Then documentation audit, because the law will be, the law will be enforced in the way that they will do audits and so on. So documenting all the measures and processes. Conduct audits. You may want to conduct internal audits first before external audit. Audit on adequacy. Of course, it is not required. It doesn't have to be like you have all this audit and then display it to people. No, it is not required that way. But at least we are ready. Yeah. And last but not least is the implementation, and it must be a continuous, yeah, monitoring for compliance or due diligence. So it's actually summarized the whole what we need to do. It is not 1 day or 1 week or 1 month job. It is a continuous job. But what we need to be clear is that it's an action that we have to take as soon as possible. Yeah. Okay. That is actually the end of my slide. This is a bonus for you. Thank you for your attention. And should there be any questions, welcome. Any questions? And I was informed that I don't need to sit. I just take any question. Okay, we have one. And anyone have second? Maybe the third one first. Three people. Yeah? Okay. We will start with. We have the third one. Doctor. Okay, please.
Assalamu alaikum,
You
Prof.
can introduce briefly.
Okay, my name is Irfan Ali Tanvi. I'm a PhD student of cyber law at the moment under your gracious supervision.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Once again, wonderful talk, Prof. Always brilliant and usually informative, I must say, always. But there were a few questions which triggered my mind. There was a case in the UAE, quickly I will go through. There was a dispute between UAE and Canada, which turned out to be a diplomatic issue, but it was because of data release. The BlackBerry company said, we are not going to release the data of our customers, whereas the UAE authorities said, it's our prerogative to have the data in our possession. And the BlackBerry did not budge. So this point, which you have mentioned, that the government has the right or the prerogative to process data or possess the data, does this apply only in Malaysia or is it elsewhere? Jazakumullah khairan, Prof.
Let me quickly answer, kalau tak nanti lupa. Okay, the government, when they process data, of course they must have the basis why they process data. As always, you don't simply process data. I believe governments, and in Malaysia, of course, they have so many reasons why they process our data, and that has been going on, and they have law for that. So as long as it is something which is considered as part of the legal mechanism, the government is has to do that. There is, I think, clear, and maybe the incident you mentioned, if it is something to do with law enforcement, certain regulatory functions or crime prevention, then government will have to do that regardless. And to make it more, to make it easier in Malaysia, they don't have to go back to the data subject, because the government is not compelled to, or is not covered by PDPA. Yeah, it's very clear. And you are asking whether this is only Malaysia. Well, I can say this is quite uniquely Malaysian way of doing. There are few other countries who are also doing it, but Malaysia is quite prominent, yeah, when it comes to excluding government, and this is one of the example. Not many countries actually are following the footstep, but Singapore is following our footstep. Their data protection law is not applicable to government. And anything else we can always discuss in our supervision meeting, inshallah. Sister Puan, yes. Waalaikumsalam. Wow, was it 3? Okay. It doesn't seem to work. Ke sebelah dia. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. I'm
Waalaikumsalam.
Razina. I'm alumni of ICOL, now working at IBF. So basically, I have 3 questions. Okay, my first question. Well, in our campus, it is basically, a very comfortable environment to work. So sometimes, people knows one another, right? And then sometimes gossiping can be really easy and it can happen suddenly, right? Yeah? So then my question is, if someone passed the information, personal information, just through this gossiping, is it can consider it? Is it can be counted as abuse of, yes, for data protection? That's my first question. My second question and third question is relating to, because right now I'm doing research on metaverse in banking sector. So my second question is, when it comes to metaverse, how far PDPA basically can be enforced? And then my last question, is it identity of a person can be considered as part of personal data? That's it. Thank you.
The third one is yes, especially you say identity means with that data, it can identify the person, right? It actually goes to that person. If you're only talking about kulit sawo matang, a 20-year-old student, kulit sawo matang, brown skin, and so on, of course, doesn't go to any identity. But whatever identity that really goes to that particular person, then it will be part of the personal data, including genetic information, DNA, including now geolocation, because when it is merged with some other data, including your apa dipanggil ni, dia punya ping tu, the data from your movement. Okay. On the second was metaverse. The first one gossiping or membawang, onioning dipanggil. Onioning. Okay. The PDPA doesn't apply to non-commercial transactions activities. If the onioning is outside the gossiping is outside this one, I told you about the case of this airline company.
Sorry, Prof. Can I give a much more detailed example?
Context. Okay, please.
A much more. This is only examples. Again, I repeat. Okay. So basically, how about this? Okay. If someone, talking about someone else's performance, rating or research project, something which basically the person shouldn't know about the information. But then it seems that, based on certain, investigation, okay, which means the person got the information from someone from certain office. So this is okay. Again, example.
Of course, example. The data we are talking about is data of our student, for example. The student's performance. And this is the data which we get from the students' academic activities, which is so much part of our business basically. It is part of our business here. Whatever data about our student, about his performance, about his illness, about his disciplinary things, it is part of our students' data. It is not supposed to be processed unlawfully. So if you want to take it properly, to take action, and then we have the correct channel for it. Because I remember somewhere in some kulliyah, which I don't want to mention, one lecturer shared about the student's medical condition, which was psychological or psychiatric medical condition, and share it to everyone because all lecturers are there, saying that something happened to this student. I cannot recall. Either this student was missing or this student was not attending exam. I forgot, the context. But that person shared the data about the medical condition to the group. Of course, without bad intention, no ill intention, no bad intention. Wanted to share. We are not even talking about onioning here, bukan gossiping. Just want to share, look, this student missing from my class and so on, then I got this, actually he or she had this problem. And this is also wrong. This is excessive, I would say. You are sharing it and disclosing it improperly. If you really want to take it up, you know where to take it up. Maybe to Kulliyah meeting, or maybe to EXCO meeting, or maybe to specific officers that deal with this situation, rather than sending it to everyone. So we are talking about some proper, some good reason, incident with some good reason. What more if you use this kind of situation, this kind of data for improper, in improper context, improper situations, and I bet this is also another situation that may trigger the breach of personal data. Because we have this section 6, section 8, the disclosure. You only disclose to people whom you actually get consent from or being justifiable. And section 6 says something about non-excessive processing. Okay, metaverse, with or without metaverse, I mean data processing, as long as there is data processing, we're talking about data processing. Whatever technologies, whatever platform, whatever types of activities, then PDPA may still apply, would still apply. Doesn't matter. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
My good friend Dr. Aznan.
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Oh, privacy ya, nama. Tak, eh?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sonny, for a very enlightening talk.
Yeah.
Especially, I like your 5-question quiz just now.
Did you pass?
Yes, I got all no.
Oh no, okay.
Especially the question number 5, because we usually get this request through our WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
Can you
true.
share this person number 7? So it is something that we have to be careful. We have to ask permission from the owner of the phone number.
Right.
First before sharing with others. Okay,
Right.
my question is basically regarding the use of our private data, which is accessible or available in the public domain.
Okay.
Like you were saying just now, okay, like in the staff directory and so on. So what is your view on other people using our public data, our private data, which is available on public domain for certain purposes? For example, to pre-register us for an insurance scheme or something. But you can ignore the example. My real question is actually about using our private data.
The example sounds familiar.
Yeah, maybe. In what way can our private data be used? Our private data, which is available in public domain, can be used.
Thank you. Sorry about this technicality. Let me comment on the question I gave you, the quiz I gave you, number 5. People asking other staff's personal data or numbers. Sometimes kita rasa kasihan, iba nak bagi. This student needs to get lecturer and so on and so forth. But you must be mindful that people take it differently. Some people may be okay when you share his data without his consent to any student, because maybe from him that he mentioned, just give out. I mean, that particular person so well that he's not going to object to that. But for the purpose of safety and safe, not to easily give to anybody without prior consent. Because otherwise we are not respecting their right to privacy as well. But one of the situations under section 6 where you can process data without consent is also that situation where you actually are very sure that this person is not going to object. You know him so well, in that circumstances are so much in that situation where that person will not object. That one you can give actually, but the problem is, what if the other person suddenly objects? Susah lah. So even though, but for you is to argue. If this happens to be in the court, you have to argue that this is the situation that I know him. We have had some interaction and him so well, and especially this matter, he would not object if this thing happened. Yeah. So just to give you some perspective. Now the second question is very, very interesting, because when we say public data, right? Data in public, it is already beyond the definition of personal data. Yeah. When we talk about public domains, meaning it is a data which is already made public. Yeah. But this actually is complicated because some data is made public out of your will. So it should not be considered public unless you consider and you allow it to happen. Because we have some sections under section 40 of the PDPA, for anything that you purposely expose, you cannot reclaim. There is this kind of this clause. Yeah, when the data is actually made public by the person, then you cannot claim that there is a breach because of that. That's why we better be very careful because we have put so much data on our social media, and some of them are actually supposed to be private, like the documents, the license, IC, ticket, ticket, flights, boarding pass, and so on. So the moment we did it, because again, right to privacy is a right. It is a right. You actually have a choice to waive your right, isn't it? The moment you make the choice that I don't want to execute this, then it is your choice. Okay. So we have to be very careful with that. Now the problem is the data which is in public domain, which is not within our control, which is not by our choice. That there is a problem. Yeah, there is a problem. We better, I mean, the person who utilized that should be very careful, because actually they still can go back to these people to ask the permission. Yeah, and that actually the same thing what happened with the credit reporting agencies, because they argued that the data we collect, that we provide to the bank, and the blacklist itu, the data are public data, taken from the court, taken from news, and so on. But then they were used against the data subjects. That is the problem. Yeah, so in my opinion, it is not very straightforward situation, but in my opinion, we should be very careful in utilizing the personal data that seemingly to be public, but is it actually public by his choice, or is it by any other way? Yeah, even if it is a public data, that person, okay, let's argue that this data are already public and it is known by these people. And then I'm a insurance company. Yeah, I want to collect this data for the purpose of offering to them, right? Basically, we are offering them, do you want to join this insurance scheme or not? There are two issues. Number one, we're actually doing similar to what direct marketing is. People who are doing direct marketing, they do not get consent. So in this situation, there is a right under the Act, specifically a right against direct marketing. Yeah, the data subject can stop, yeah, the data user itu maksudnya yang the company who process data, please don't use the data because I'm exercising my right. Nanti hak tu ada saya section 32, 35, 37, 38. Those are the rights of data subjects. Or second situation, if you don't use the keyword or the situation of direct marketing, there is also another right by every individual to stop any data processing that you feel it will cause distress to you. The law mentioned it very specifically. If you feel it will cause distress, so what is distress? Emotional damage, emotional disturbance, malu, rasa malu, rasa tertekan, yeah. So all this you can use as, you don't even have to prove that there is already this damage. Tak perlu. But you can argue that this may likely cause damage or distress to me, so I want you to stop processing data. Yeah, so maknanya mungkin sebab dia public, so people can easily use, pick here, pick there, yeah. But then the data subject is given right, yeah, to control that. And the moment that right is ignored ataupun tidak dipatuhi, then there can be an offense. So maknanya kalau kata salah, mungkin belum salah sebab data tu dah public. But then what you do is you object, you ask the data to be stopped. Kalau dia tak buat, baru jadi kesalahan. Under the Personal Data Protection Act. Okay, Dr. Azhar, okay. Thank you. Any other question? Do you still have time? 5 more minutes. Please, maybe from your experience, your office experience. Waalaikumsalam. Silakan.
On behalf of ITD, I would like to thanks Doctor for the
Oh.
very insightful sharing
You're
session.
welcome.
Okay, regarding the notice and choice, do we as a customer have the right to not to give the permission to institution to take our personal data?
Very good question. Wah, patutnya ada hadiah ni. Puan Normaliza, boleh nanti hadiah. Oh, tak. Okay. Can they object? Again, we're talking about staff atau student? Tak kira. Oh, customer, right. Look, the fact that they are customer, meaning that they want to take something from us. They want to take our service ke, product ke, whatsoever. So in that process, we may require the data. So as long as the data is required for that particular service, so he cannot object, he or she cannot object. Yeah, because if you object, then we cannot proceed. You cannot reject if it is part of the whole, whatever you can interpret from the contract itself. Yes. So I'm as a lecturer, I already submitted lots of data because they are needed for so many reasons. I cannot object. And not only that, even if, okay, I want to look at it from both ways. That if it is required, then we cannot object. But let's say if he wants to object, yeah, he can only object those which are considered excessive or which is not really part of the contractual situations. That one is okay. That one is okay. So I think it's quite clear. But now what is not clear is, what do you need the data for? You have to make it very clear on your own. Kalau tak, one day, people can easily object the data. Maybe staff can argue, why do you need my data? Then we have to be, as UIA, as a company, as an organization, should be able to answer, and it must be in a written policy. Yeah, right. Okay. Thank you. Is that the final question? Is there any question online at YouTube? Kod tak ada. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Oh yeah, ada. Okay, baik. Last question here. Okay, we'll see.
I just want to ask about disposal of computers, own
Right.
computers. So we need to swipe before we dispose, or doing the throwing all the
Papers?
computers. I mean the hard disk.
The hard disk. Okay.
But if
Hardwares.
we took a vendor to do the drilling of the hard disk,
Mhm.
so I think there will be always a risk, right? So any
There is a risk.
improvement.
There's a risk, but you cannot do everything on your own. That's a problem. If you want to engage a third party, it is always possible. But what the PDP says, this PDP does not really affect the data processor. We call this data processor, the third party. There are only two situations where data processors are affected. Number one, they must have these security safeguards according to the Act. Otherwise, they will be relaxed on their storage or on their process. Bermakna, if you want to engage a third party to do the data cleaning, then they must make sure it is being done securely and successfully. Secondly, they must also keep the records of their data processing, meaning all what they did with the data cleaning, they must put it in writing that can be audited. Other than that, most of the obligations are on us, on UIA. That's why I agree there is a risk. You don't simply engage that party for every type of work lah, every type of data processing. Bermakna what to do, the contract safeguard must be very clear lah between us and the third party. And there must be a very clear reference that this data processor or the third party are obliged to do the same obligations as we are obliged under the PDPA. Otherwise, they will make use of the reason, or we don't know and whatnot and so forth. Yeah, okay, thank you. All I can help in that, preparing the powerful contract of safeguards. That's it. I think that is all. Thank you, and I hope we can keep on doing this. Thank you for your support, and let's hope, yeah, we will improve, yeah, as collectively, inshallah, as well as personally on data processing and data management. Thank you again. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor, for the enlightening session. As we approach the conclusion of our program, it is my pleasure to invite once again our esteemed Chief Digital Officer, Professor Dato Dr. Norbik Bashah bin Idris, to deliver the closing remarks.
I think we're all tired already. Thank you very much, Dr. Sonny. I always find his presentation very insightful, very enlightening, and always new things to learn and to listen. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and give him more strength to do these kind of services for the ummah and for whoever that he is serving, inshallah. Thank you very much, Dr. Sonny. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Next, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Norbik Bashah to to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Sonny. Thank you, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the conclusion of the Personal Data Protection Act PDPA 2010 and how it affects me at work program, we extend a heartfelt gratitude to all the active participation and engagement. To conclude our program, let us collectively recite the Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Al-As. We wish you all good evening ahead, and once again, thank you for being integral part of this meaningful program. To all the participants, please don't forget to fill in the evaluation form for the CTD point. Thank you.